So, the Division 3. We heard the announcement, and I don't know what you're thinking about, but not only am I thinking about the possible release date, I think something caught my attention just a few hours ago. So, we have game time for our kids. There's a specific day of the week they are allowed to play video games. Well, it appears that since I allowed some of them play a little bit of the Division, they all now want to play the Division game. So, I've been setting them up with the Division 1, and I think it's been an interesting experience. This is a very difficult game to try to teach kids, but they were babies, actually really young, and in some cases, babies, when I was playing this game and making YouTube content on it around 2016 all the way through now, and they just want to play the game. So in setting the game up, it's kind of got me going back to playing the Division 1, and something Fei Lao said in Division 1 is actually the spark for this video. Whenever you go into the safe house to go and talk to her, she makes a comment, very offhanded comment, about the first wave agents and how you guys are the second wave of agents. I thought that was quite peculiar because I have never necessarily thought about the perspective of which we might or maybe could play the Division 3 from. I've heard people say, what if in Division 3 we end up being the bad guys? And I saw that comment as an offhand comment in one of my videos, and I thought to myself, that would be interesting, but I don't necessarily know how it'll be because a lot of the lines have been blurred over the Division 2 storyline. I think the Division 2 storyline did more to blur the lines than even the Division 1 actually did. Sure, we already knew who the bad guys were for the most part, but it didn't really help having to deal with Fei Lao going all kinds of weird on us in regard to her stance and even her reasons as to why she went ahead and, carried out her actions. So I thought it was quite interesting overall to kind of just think about it. Now, we kind of have ideas of what happened to the first wave agents overall, most of them, because if you actually play the Division 1, you're going to see there's a lot of echoes, there are a lot of point outs to maybe say missing agents whom you get to find, find out what happened to them and all of that stuff. So the game does a good job in littering its world with a lot of story beats, but that is a world that we experience secondhand. What would it look like to actually be the agents in that first wave? I think this idea is going to check off multiple boxes in the sense that a lot of the fan requests and members of the community have actually leaned towards, say, why is it not possible for us to go back to New York? Or what would it look like if we went back to New York? Well, I guess this gives an opportunity for the developers to be able to write a compelling story that moves us back to New York. Maybe we'll be playing a prequel at the time, and it'll be interesting to see how all of that works. This would give a potential for us to be able to explore everything from a prequel story even to the prototype mechanics in terms of skills and technology and all of that fun stuff that may not necessarily have been available to us at the time that we started as second wave agents. Sure, maybe second wave agents already had, a lot of different aspects or improvements to their gear and so on and so forth. But I think this is probably going to provide a fresh aspect to the overall game entirely. So I think this is an angle that the developers probably need to go ahead and pursue if, they're looking for a story. But in my next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about when I think the next Division game is going to be coming out. Because, these are just thoughts anyways, but I think we're probably going to be surprised as to how it is they've taken on, say, their pattern in regard to how it is that they decide to actually move their content overall. But in this line of thinking, if we go back and if the Division agents were to be playing as first wave agents, and when I say that, I mean Division agents as in those of us, the players, were to be playing the game from the perspective of the first agent, what are the, first wave agents are, what are the things that we're, likely to see? Could it be that we may be likely to see how the hunters originated? Could it be that we may likely, be able to deal with, a lot of the factions or I would say early phases of factions? Maybe we might even work with some of the leaders of, some of the rogue factions in a sense. I'm not necessarily meaning rogue as in rogue agents in the Dark Zone, but if you think about the LMB, the Last Man Battalion, they had, elements of former, JTF affiliation and all of that stuff. Could it be that, we had a friendly relationship with them and then, by the time the first wave agents kind of all disappeared into oblivion, or most of them disappeared into oblivion, the second wave agents came and they formed a new alliance with Benitez and all of the other characters and Jessica Kendall and so on and so forth. I think it'll really make a very interesting story. Some of you may be thinking, what the heck is he talking about? Who is, Jessica Kendall? If only you knew. If only you knew. And, at the end of the day, it could be that the game might end on a note where, we get to meet Fei Lao, for the very first time. And it really does make for a really, in my opinion, anyways, a story that comes full circle. But, a story like that would be would need to be very compelling in the way that it's written. But the division just has so much lore and has a lot that really does surround it that I don't think it's an impossibility overall to come to these conclusions. But what are your thoughts? If we were to go back to the division, would it be out of the question for us to play a prequel of the game or to play as the first wave agents and explore what that world kind of looked like before we got into the Division 1 game? Because right now, the Division 2 game seems to have done a lot of conclusive, loose end tying in regard to how it's approached the story. But when we go back to another game, I think a prequel, or at least telling, the stories that kind of begun this whole journey, will really resonate with a lot of players. But these are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section. Let me know your ideas. Let me know what your perceptions might be about all of this, and I'll be happy to talk to you guys in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.